think it's absolutely crucial. I mean, one of the ways in which we triage how we get urban crime is to understand is like how do we triage urban poverty,
Mm-hmm.
which goes back to my position that we have never had a politics in America trying to rectify the gap of urban poverty that comes around after the 60s into the 70s, starting with the cocaine epidemics of the Nixon era, going into the crack epidemics of the 80s and 90s. We have never found a way to solve how we stop those epidemics,
Mm-hmm.
how we stop the attendant crime that comes along with them, and how we stop having vectors of hopelessness that span generations that create the antisocial behavior
Mm-hmm.
that creates the things that bring forth notions of underclass ideology in respective communities, whether it be Black communities, Latino communities, or other communities that are disproportionately affected by these blights of criminal activity.
Do you
And
believe?
I
I'm
think
sorry.
that
I'm
part
sorry.
of the problem we have, I'll be very frank with you,
Mm-hmm.
part of the problem we have is that the only voices that we have that are allowed to give responses to the issues of crime in these communities are liberals. You don't hear socialists or radicals. You don't hear people like Torrey Reed, Adolf Friedel, Cedric Johnson talking about causes of black crime and what needs to be done to mitigate black crime. You don't hear people from the radical left talk about means of, that won't happen because that changes the nature of the paradigm. Because they're going to do it in a way that's not going to be like Glenn Lowry trying to make it seem like, oh, black people are just parasites and culturally illiterate. They deserve to have this happen to them. Like the morons on the left will always want to do. Because we realize that social behavior is tied to political economy that replicates activity in the ways in which people behave.
Mm-hmm. If you want to hear me expand on what Pascal just said, apparently the Platypus Society video is up of Ben Burgess and I's appearance at the West Coast Conference.
What? You guys went to Wax Rhapsodic at the
Oh
Platypus?
man, I had to fucking break down how crack works because no one really, there's a lot of interesting stuff people were saying. But I want to stay on this point for a second about underclass ideology and a kind of acceptance of it. Regardless of where we're saying this great awakening happening, there's these moments in Black cultural production where there's this acceptance of underclass ideology, and there's always, I think, false narratives around it by people who were there, some of them even older than you. Someone sent me a video of Kool Moe Dee, famous rapper Kool Moe Dee. I'm a fan of the music. Wasn't really a fan of what he had to say. It was pretty ahistorical. They all say the same thing. Rap was great and it was positive, and then they came and made us talk about gangster shit, and we went downhill because they made us be niggas. I don't dig that line because it's not true. He went so far as to say that if you were to talk about any other racial group and harming them, they wouldn't put the record out. And I was like, that's not true at all. You definitely didn't listen to Ice Cube stuff because he was talking mad shit about Koreans. And his relationship with the Nation of Islam made him not so friendly to the Jewish community as well. So that's not true. But if you think about these moments where first of all, rap was just rap for a long time. And when the Chronic comes out, now there's a certain monetization of a lifestyle. And you can make movies around this. You can do it. You can sell clothes around this. It's very profitable. Hip hop is. especially what we're going to call gangster rap or whatever. I just call it lifestyle music. And you get the movies, right? Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. There was just so many hood movies. And they kind of change as the material conditions are changing. Then eventually you get the belly, the drug dealer stories start happening. But the reality is a lot of people are getting locked up for long periods of time. And these drug dealer tales, you're either looking way back in the rearview mirror or you're just kind of pandering an idea of what the ghetto looks like to people that don't really live in it. And that happens for a while. Then it dies off. Then it gets this resurgence. And I was talking to Bert Cooper about this. And I don't think you read Percival Everett's book. But the resurgence is when you get, I can't, was it, what is the woman that wrote, who wrote the book, Precious?
Oh,
Sapphire. Right?
Okay.
Right. You remember that? And there was like there was this resurgence and this kind of, this is the portrait of real Black America. And before it was called gangster rap, and I don't even know if you remember this, Pascal. What did people call it? They called it reality rap. Remember that? Because this is the reality of young Black men in the inner city. And so when these stories came out, this is the real story of Black America that you don't get told, right? And this is all post Cosby, because there was such a backlash to Cosby. We're like, never again will we show uppity Negroes living their upper middle class lives. You got Moesha, and what was that one show with Malcolm Jamal Warner, Niggas in Space or some shit like that with him and Eddie Griffin?
There's a lot of bad.
There's a lot of bad. But did it feel to you like there was this portrayal of Black authenticity, which was playing up this idea of what inner city life was like for everybody else but people in the inner city?
Yeah, that definitely was going on in the 90s. I mean, there were so many different shows that were about depicting various iterations of Black life in the 90s. And it was just like, enough is enough, man. I was
because that became, though, but do you think that became, this is the authentic Black experience, which to some degree was pretty coonish, right? And
also had a different world with which, I mean, I thought it was a decent show.
Have you seen a show like that since?
No, I mean, what have we gotten since, though?
Moesha. Her real name is Brandy. her real name is.
You don't need to fake the ghettoization.
You could have just called her Brandy.
I was like, yo, man,
that was the name of her first album, which was a multi-platinum success. Shit, you could have called it Rachel. I got a Black ass sister named Rachel. No, that's not enough. Moesha it is. Moesha it is. Just so you people understand. Because we didn't. What was the Black lady show in the 70s? Carol, what was it called? It was just one. What was her name? What was it?
Claudine.
Claudine. What's wrong with Claudine? That's a regular name. Very fitting of the times.
Claudine was a nurse.
Oh, what do you know? Moesha's dad was a 2-time car salesman. Maybe I'm a little angry about that time. I did, but
Jason, you particularly were invested in being problemized by Moesha, man.
I just remember watching Cosby, and just it was a well done show. You cannot deny it was a well done show. But I do also remember the Michael Eric Dysons of the world. I would always have something to say about it. Right, this is an accurate portrayal of Black life. But we're coming out of there's these moments, right, where when we're coming out of the 60s and 70s, you get black life as ghetto life or ghetto niggas getting a piece of the pie, right? Arnold and Willis get to live on Park Avenue because of the graciousness of a white billionaire or millionaire at the time, because we don't really have billionaires. George Jefferson has his dry cleaning business blows up, right? Nigga quarters have blown him, out of Queens, also into a Park Avenue apartment where he now has, mixed race neighbors and British neighbors and the like. A white doorman, a honky doorman, right? What's happening, I think, is normal to an extent, but Raj can't have a daddy. So Cosby comes along and it's like, oh, this is pretty regular. There's about as regular as you get. And it's like, nope, never again. Never again will you see this. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Well, you know me, man. I don't like to romanticize the Cosby Show. I told you that.
I don't think it's a romanticism of it. I think it's romanticism of it. I think it's just going, oh, this was a nice salve after being beat over the head with TV that maybe not everybody experienced, right? James, don't get the pool cue. How many times did James have to pay the rent? Sorry. That never was an issue on that show, right? These struggles. And who wrote a lot of those shows? Norman Lear. Who was writing that? We should get that Jackson girl in here and get her beat real good with her mom. Gonna burn her with an iron.
So what you're explaining is that we're getting black authenticity written with white pen.
But now it's getting written by a black pen, and it's the same story, though, don't you think?